Are you struggling to deal with the systems in your business, keeping all your knowledge in one place, setting your team up for success, and delivering visibility and great customer service to your clients? Well, we're having some of those growing pains at the moment, and I'm making this video and a few others that are going to follow it to document our process and the change that we're going to go through in order to help fix some of those issues that we're seeing in the business. So I'm going to take you through our journey. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you a bit about what the outcomes that we're looking for in this project are, where we are today, and some of the ideas that we've got about where we're going to try to get to. Hi, I'm Duncan from 6.5. I am the founder and CEO. We are an agency that builds, cares, and hosts WordPress websites and looks after Google Workspace for our customers. Now, this is a bit of a different video to our usual sort of how-tos, but it's going to end up being a bunch of how-tos as well, because I'm going to share with you along our journey how we're going to implement some of these tools and put them together. So the reason for this project really comes about because we started hearing some feedback from our clients and started noticing some gaps in our process where we're not actually really being as efficient as possible. So a couple of the big things that we've seen recently are we are sending too many emails to our clients, and that through tickets and invoices and domain renewals and newsletters and updates. And then there's also things that we need from them in order to kind of complete their product onboarding. So in amongst all of those, what we're finding is our clients are getting overwhelmed and email overload, and actually really just ignoring some of those important emails that are coming through because of the noise. And the second thing we've got is we've got a bunch of information in disparate places. So for example, we've got procedures inside of Google Sites, and we've got tasks and projects inside of Asana, and we've got a public knowledge base. And then we've got Active Campaign and MailChimp running as well. So all of these bits of information deal with the client and their journey with us, but none of them are really sort of talking to each other or have any cohesive sort of configuration. So what we're looking for in the next few months of this project, and I think this is now going to be a continuing set of values and outcomes that we should always be looking at when we're doing something in our business. So the first one, we want to reduce the number of systems that we have in use. We've been seeing quite a bit of information recently about context switching, and that's the mental process that it takes for you to go from one tool to another or from one task to another in order to get your work done. That context switching genuinely takes time, and it takes you away from what it is you're trying to do. It creates a distraction in your process, and you end up forgetting what you were trying to get done, for example. The second one is making sure that our team have ownership and accountability, and that's over a couple things. One is over our documentation and our procedures. In order for them to be able to actually look after and own those procedures, well, they've got to have access to them and be able to keep them up to date much easily than they do currently. And the second one is accountability, and I'll talk about the reasons why this one's here in a sec. Everyone's already accountable for what they do, but we don't have a very good sort of overview process to find out exactly who is due to get something done, if they have a problem getting it done, and what that task is. And then the third outcome we're looking for is delivering visibility to clients and streamlining onboarding. And like I said earlier, we have some emails and so forth, some communications are a bit messy. So we want to actually find a way of bringing a whole bunch of that information and giving the client visibility of those tasks as well. Now, when we run a project, so for example, a web build project, we usually join a client into Asana. But many of our clients who are, say, just on hosting or Google Workspace, and they don't have a care plan in place, they don't get visibility of Asana because they don't need it, right? We're going to do a bunch of things over and over again. However, we've started to realize that actually that would be a good thing. A, because there's some onboarding tasks and things we need them to do for us. And then secondly, we've got monthly reports and other bits and pieces that we need to put somewhere so that they can get access to that information a bit more easily. So where are we today? Well, like I said, we've got some problems. So our first problems are too many emails to clients, and there's too much kind of disparate information. It's all good information, but it's not in one place. So for example, we've got our SOPs inside of Google Sites. Now, Google Sites, as good as they are, and it's free, it comes inside of your Google Workspace account. The things that we're struggling with right now are actually quite a few, which I haven't really realized until much recently. And that is that Google Sites are, frankly, they're boring. There's very limited amount of formatting you can do. There's very little in the amount of flexibility. You can put blocks of text on either side of videos and, make big headings and rows and put images and stuff into them, but that's about it. The ability to make it a bit more interesting is pretty difficult. All of our SOPs, all of our standard operating procedures are in there and actually owned by me. I've created pretty much all of those over a period of many years, but this is going to become a bottleneck. I mean, we're only a small team right now, but as we grow, that's impossible, right? I don't want to know how everything is done, right? Our team should be able to document their own processes in a way that when someone else in the team needs to pick that up when they're away, or if they leave the company, the next person comes along, or they take on someone junior to them to train, those SOPs are there and someone can read them, pick it up and get the job done. The Google Sites search is it's a bit crap actually. I mean, even if you misspell a word, it doesn't auto-correct. You'd think better of a search engine from Google, but unfortunately it's really not that great. It's also not great at self-referencing and internal links. So if you move pages around, for example, and you haven't got the links right and so forth, it actually breaks stuff pretty easily, renaming pages, so on and so forth. So it's not good at those kind of things. There's no table of contents for sub-pages. There's no attributes or tagging. There's no version history. There's no approvals process, and I'll touch on approvals process as we go through this. It's very limited in way of permissions. You can't silo the information from one part of the documentation and give that one team certain amounts of permission. And there's no templating availability either, right? So every time you create a page, it's blank, except for the header. You can take a header and put that in place. So that's one of our big issues is Google Sites. We're finding that we're hitting the limits for that for a small team. And if we're going to grow, if we're going to bring more people on board, and if we're going to solve these problems with client delivery, we need some more granular permissions, some templating, and some approvals around that as well. So the next tool we use a lot of is Asana. Now, Asana is great. We are actually still on the free plan. We've never found a need to move up to a paid plan. We have a number of clients that own their own Asana accounts and they have the paid plans that we are then linked into. We recommend that for a lot of our clients, especially the big ones who are very active, because they get to keep that history. It's part of their organization rather than it being in our account. And I think that's really important. So, we kind of use what we have available, but we don't use 100% of it. And, we're pushing up against that boundary where we might need to start paying for it, but then we've been looking and evaluating at some of those paid features and kind of, it doesn't tick some of the boxes that we've been discussing in terms of the problems that we have that are going to help us move forward. So here's a couple of the reasons that we're looking at moving out of Asana. There's no visibility across all the accounts that we work in or even all the projects. And the visibility between users is actually kind of difficult as well. You can't, as far as we're aware, build a dashboard, for example, that says, look, here are all the outstanding tasks for today, here are the users, here's the project that relates to, and so on and so forth. So that status view for project management is a bit limiting. Now, there's no sort of global overdue reporting related to that status view, and it's only tasks. There's only tasks, there's no sort of knowledge base, there's no wiki, and so those things require a separate system anyway. And then the final one is we have a lot of procedures where we have subtasks on those, and those are hidden. Like, it's really difficult to actually surface those and have a look at where the process is, because those subtasks are only available when you view that particular task. All the status reporting is on the top level tasks. So Asana is one of the things that we want to either find a better way of using or move away from. Now, much like many companies, we have an industry sort of specific industry standard tool. In our case, it's called WHMCS, and it has a few issues, but it's key to what we do because it interfaces with our web hosting. It interfaces with Google Workspace, for example, and helps us manage accounts. It helps us manage invoicing and billing, and it's very, very core. It's very central to our business. Also deals with tickets. Now, it has a client portal, but it's really actually quite difficult to extend. And so part of this process, like I said, is how do we make some of that information a bit easier for our clients to find and to see? So we're looking at where we can put that together elsewhere, and then maybe we end up bringing that into the current client login and that current portal that we already have. So, that industry software is very common. It's common in, trades or practice management, allied health. Lawyers have a system that helps them manage their practice and so forth as well. So we're not that different to anybody else, even though we are a tech company. So how are we going to look at dealing with this? Like, how are we going to move forwards? What's the plan? So one of the ideas we've got is looking for a system that's going to help us centralize all those documents into one place. Okay, so like I talked about with Google Sites, we've got an accountability, an ownership, and an approvals issue. Now we've been looking at Notion and just kind of trying some stuff out there. So we think Notion's going to help tick that box in terms of its then ability for task management and some of the other bits and pieces that are going to help us with those problems. Notion looks like it's going to be a great solution for us. And because of its granular ability to siphon off parts of the site and create views on existing data, it looks like we should be able to create client portals out of that as well. So we can, put our monthly reports in there. They can see the tasks that we are executing for them and what tasks are due by the client and what are due by us. Because Notion's got an API, we can integrate some information that comes from our industry system and maybe even the CRM in the future as well. And CRMs are a different topic. I'll deal with those when we move forwards a bit as well. I think we'll have a CRM conversation. We get a lot of clients asking us about CRMs and what to use. So we'll deal with that in another video. We want to harness AI a bit more. And one of the things we've seen with Notion is that you can actually use your Notion documentation to train a chatbot, with some AI and some natural language processing. Now, the idea behind that would be twofold. We could potentially replace the live chat that we have on the website, like a lot of companies are doing. And I know you're kind of rolling your eyes and go, oh, please don't do that. I'd much rather just talk to a human. Well, yeah, you can. But those chatbots are really good at surfacing some answers to those common questions quickly without you having to search through a knowledge base. And that can often drive those common questions to resolution much faster. Now, one of the things that we see, or actually the principle behind how we put our knowledge base together is literally off of the questions that our customers ask us. We get that question, we see it happen 3 or 4 times, we create a knowledge base article for it. So we're reasonably confident that if we put together a chatbot that is AI run, it will be able to help answer some of those questions a bit more efficiently without having to wait for a human and just make life a bit easier. Now, of course, one of the key things about a chatbot is that you do have that access to come to a human as well. So that's one part of this. We want to be able to help service that from a support point of view, but also that knowledge base will have internal information. So our team should be able to use that same system to be able to help surface those answers much faster as well. So obviously you could go and use the search in the knowledge base tool. Yep, that would work. And it's going to be much the same. But that AI and natural language processing enables the bot to be able to actually answer the question in a more human manner and then provide the link to it as well, potentially. So that's the second version. And then the third version is from a sales point of view. We have lots of frequently asked questions. We try and add those to the website, but not everything goes on the website. And therefore, as we have other people doing sales, and again, through the live chat could be an option here as well, potentially we can create that content inside the knowledge base, which is purely for sales, and then that can help answer those questions and push that forward as well. So Notion looks to us like it's going to be a significant kind of stay in terms of our software stack that helps run the business. So the why here is that we have that separation of data and effectiveness. That search problem and that siloing of data is causing a slowdown in the effectiveness of our team for them to be able to get stuff done and be able to answer questions for clients. And because that no central place exists, we've also got a lack of integration between them. I talked about context switching, that is a problem, and our client communication's a bit messy. We also believe that there's probably money being left on the table. We think our clients are probably getting a really good deal in certain circumstances where our timesheeting is perhaps not as good as it should be. So we're also going to look at a timesheeting system. We currently do one, we run one that is manual, so that relies on you kind of selecting the project, clicking play, and da-da-da-da-da. We're looking at Toggle, which has a desktop app which helps you figure out where you're at, what you're doing, and then you can go back through it of a day and go, okay, this period of time I was actually working on that, if you forget to push the button and assign it. And that means we're going to be able to reorganize stuff, link it a bit better to our care plans, which is going to help us with visibility of when we have a budget for the month, which is based on the care plan that the client's on. And then if we go over it, and that overage is also really important, is there's always a circumstance, because we don't oversee it correctly, that we don't know that we're now hitting an overage. And we want to be able to be more proactive with our clients and say, look, yeah, you want this piece of work to be done. Unfortunately, it's going to go over your monthly care plan. It's going to cost this, so we'll quote it. Do you want to pay for it separately, or do you want to wait until next month? And that timesheeting system needs to be able to generate those kind of alerts for us so that we're more proactive with the client in saying that's where you're at. So we've come up with a few bits of criteria in order to do this, whilst selecting those kind of bits of software and how we'll kind of bolt those things together moving forward. So the first one is, wherever possible, we want to try and avoid something like Zapier, some of those tools that help you link things together. Now, that might sound a bit weird, but there's a couple of reasons for it. One is that our data and our clients' data is really important, and the less moving parts you have in that, the better. The second one is that we're kind of privileged from most companies, is because I come from a development background. We have developers in the business that could build an integration between two APIs and do it more natively than having to involve Zapier and pushing it out the other way. Now, obviously, the downside to that is that if it breaks, it needs a developer to go fix it. And it can't be dealt with by someone in the business who doesn't have that technical knowledge. However, it does mean that we've got less moving parts, probably less software to pay for, and then potentially less things that will break, because we've got that code once and we're not reliant on Zapier doing an update that will then break that particular integration and then we don't know about it, for example. There's also an ownership thing there as well. If that ownership is with one user in the business who owns that particular Zapier account, and then we end up with 20 accounts, there's going to be some problems there as well. Now, because Notion, and you might be getting the idea here that Notion's something we've been looking at pretty hard, because Notion's actually quite flexible and very customizable in the way that you can organize information, the next rule is going to be, see if you can do it in Notion first. Don't over-engineer it, keep it simple, but if you can do it in Notion first, try and do it in Notion. The next item on the criteria list is we've got to be owned by the team, and there's got to be some good permission structuring around it, which means that anyone on the team can create, update, and own it, and they should be encouraged to do so. And then the second thing is the permission around that piece of content or that task should be structured in such a way that we can make it visible to the client with a click of a button. But also everybody else can see what's going on and utilize that content themselves, even if they're not related directly to that job role. Now, we've put together a bit of a path, what we've called a path to success. Some people call it a roadmap or milestones, whatever that might be. And so I'm going to share that with you here. And hilariously, you might think I've just done that brain dump for this video inside of Notion. So I'm going to share that on screen now. So that path to success, this is going to tweak, it's going to change. And in future videos, as we move forwards, I'm going to come back and share this with you again so you can kind of see where we're at. Now, we'll start by obviously getting Notion set up with a wiki and our SOPs. Now, the most important thing here is, there's probably three things, there's probably three parts to this. One is that we need an SOP for writing SOPs. Second thing is we need to index our Google Sites SOPs and build a task list for migration, right? Because we've obviously got a bunch of documentation, we need to migrate it. And one of the problems we've got in Google Sites is that we've got multiple processes on one page. So some of those are going to have to be split out into several and put together and probably rewritten. This is a really good opportunity to revise all of those SOPs and rewrite them. And then the third one, which I'm just going to move to the bottom here, is we need to define that approvals process. So we need to write the SOP for the SOPs, and you can check that out in the next video. And then the next one is we're going to index our Google Sites SOPs, so like the stuff we have already, and then build a task list to migrate all of those as well. And I'll do a video on how we index what we've got in Google Sites, and then the process of taking one article, moving it across into Notion, and then also about how we build that task list in Notion to start tracking it. And that task list will help us start putting together the task list and the task database that we use for everything else moving forwards too. And like I said, that approvals process. So obviously if we're going to move it from Google Sites to Notion, it's a great opportunity to have that documentation peer reviewed and have somebody else look at it to make sure it makes sense. And the way I've written the SOPs, you'll see, make sure you write it in such a way that your grandma could read it, understand it, and have a reasonably good chance of getting it done, right? If not your grandma, then think about somebody that's just a new hire to the business. Do they have the ability in reading this to be able to then go get it done and complete the task? So next up, we're looking at Toggle for time tracking. So we're going to get ourselves moved so that we've got a much better idea about where people are spending time in the business, what they're spending time on, which tasks they're spending time on. This list is malleable based on what we find as we learn more as we go through this process. So that task management system, I believe, is really important. If we can take the tasks that we've got in Asana and move them out into Notion, then we've got a much better chance of being able to see who is working on what and where those tasks are at. We need our checklist tasks. So in Asana right now, we've got tasks that are created when a new hosting account comes along or a new care plan is implemented. And those have subtasks and SOPs related to them that show us and the team what needs to get done. So we need to set up those new templates inside of Notion and trigger those when that product is purchased. We've got a bunch of repeating tasks, so things we do every month on care plans, for example, go and update plugins, check the site is working, check site speed, etc. And we then probably need to find a way of integrating WHMCS, which is where our client portal is, the client information, the product information, the purchases, the dates of when they purchase and so forth, pushing that into Notion. And if we can push that into Notion, then that means the task management system can run off the back of it. And then finally, at least at this point in time, we're looking at building out the client portal to be able to show the client where we're at and what it is we're doing and what's being done. And the timelines around that as well. So the end result we're looking for in this project is that Google Workspace will still be used for the storage of docs, sheets, slides, client content, videos, email, calendar, and so forth. We want to maintain at least a level of separation should Notion not work out, that will keep at least a bunch of information inside of Google Workspace. And lots of those things are very sensible to keep inside of Google Drive. Again, different kind of sharing hierarchy and structures, but also content that's not relevant to Notion to stay in there. We want to keep as much as we can, again, our internal tasks, internal SOPs in one place. That will make it much easier to reference and link things together. So when you have a recurring task, linking it to the SOP page, and Notion should be able to do both of those things for us. We've got a bit of integration work to do with our industry standard tool, pushing that information into Notion. And we're also looking at some CRMs. High Level is the current favorite, and we'll talk about that again in a future video. So automating those sales pipelines and customers on onboarding journeys. Now we're currently in ActiveCampaign and MailChimp. We're kind of halfway between the two. MailChimp has served us quite well. We started building some stuff out in ActiveCampaign, but we very quickly hit a limit, and I'll again talk about that. And then the last one is moving from our current timesheeting tool, which is called Freckle, over into Toggle, a bit more automated, a bit more granular, and a bit better at dealing with things like our care plan budgets on a monthly basis. So thanks very much for watching. Bit of a big video, a bit of a different video to the ones that you'll find on our channel already, but I really am quite excited about where we're going with this. I think it's going to help set up the company for growth and for better delivery of our services to our clients as well. We're looking to improve the efficiency of the team and being able to kind of share that workload and make everybody a bit more resilient in being able to deliver their work too. So if you like this video and you want to find out more, don't forget to like and subscribe below. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video.